r/ask Reddit. What is the longest 5 minutes you have ever experienced? Being a kid and waiting for my mom to finish talking to friends. That ain't 5 minutes yo. That's legit an hour. Not according to mom. I was on placement with a doctor and he told a patient that he might lose his leg due to diabetes. It obviously upset him, but the doctor left to go get something, leaving me in the room with him. He must have been gone for only 2 minutes, but I swear it felt like 20. The guy was quietly sobbing to himself and I had no idea what to do or say. So, on the plus side, you'll save 50% off shoes. Sorry, soldier. Shoes sold in pairs. Honestly, just being there with him was probably the best thing you could have done. Once the doc you were placed with left, you were the only thing stopping him from being fully alone in that super dark moment. Nothing you could have said would be more important or valuable than that. On the way to a toilet, trying to hold back destructive diarrhea in a public place. One day shortly after lunch at work, I had to rush to the bathroom. I ran on in and sat down in the far left stall. I hurriedly undid my pants and sat down to take care of business. As I sat down, a second man entered the middle stall. I heard him undo his pants and just after that I let go the floodgates. Turns out there was a third dude in the far stall, and both of us released a torrent of brown hell into the toilets. It was an orchestra of butthole magnificence. After the 3 seconds of unleashed brown fury, it came to a stop almost as fast as it began. At the same time with my third stall partner, the poor guy in the middle stall zipped his pants up, did up his belt, and left. In 5th grade, while the principal was listing off the profanities, I searched on Google Earth. Ducking, Austria. Newfoundland had some great town names. Dildo, Conception Bay, and Come By Chance are within a couple hours drive of each other. Also Spread Eagle. Waiting in front of the bathroom because I need to pee but my brother locked the door. 10-year-old me waiting inside the restroom for my mom to come in and help me get my dong off my zipper. Vividly remember those 5 minutes of excruciating pain. Longest 5 minutes ever. That was the time I started wearing underwear. Being young and waiting for my mum to pick me up from somewhere and she was late. Young? I still do this. I'm always on time. If I tell someone I'll be there at 3 PM to pick them up, you know I'll be there exactly at 3 PM. Not a minute late. Then every minute I wait for you just pisses me off more and more. Once my ex made me wait over 25 minutes for her and it was ridiculous. By the time she made it to the car, I was just so annoyed I didn't even want to go to the event anymore. This is my life. Good timekeepers are definitely in the minority. Most people I know are oblivious to my seething rage when I have to hang around due to their lateness. And if they do realize, the problem is me and that I am overacting. I once had to wait in a pub on a Friday night by myself for over an hour waiting on 3 separate friends. They knew I was on my own with creepy guys trying to talk to me. I was texting them but just assumed one of the others would show and save me. All of them showed up one after the other and thought it was hilarious that they were all so late. That was 5 years ago and every time I think about it, the rage comes back. Well, thanks for the gold, I think. I'm a bit clueless of all the Reddit features. Waiting at the DMV line that led to the true DMV line. Waiting for that pregnancy test result, regardless of how you want the result to sway. My son was silent when he was born. The doctor gave me a serious look, handed me the scissors to cut the umbilical cord, and then rushed my son to a table on the other side of the room. I moved to the head of the bed to tell my wife what a great job she did. I honestly have no idea how long it took to hear him cry, but those minutes were the longest year of my life. He turned 20 last month. I recently had a very frightening sleep paralysis. It probably just lasted for a few minutes but it felt like ages. 6 months ago, anesthesia ended too soon while the surgeon was still stitching up my knee after realigning my patella. There were still 3 stitches to go. I still can't decide what was the worst pain, the tourniquet on the top of my thigh or the stitches. This happened to me in my last C-section. Number 4, so there was a lot of scar tissue and baby was in an awkward position. Took longer than usual to get in. Spinal wore off and I was feeling everything. They injected some local but that didn't help. I didn't want to be put under GA so I just took it. Won't ever have another baby again. That was traumatic. I have a less harrowing answer as well. The last 5 minutes of an ultrasound on your abdomen, when forced to do so with a full bladder. Especially when I got my appointment wrong and showed up an hour early. I have, in all my 30+ years, never had to pee so badly lol. I arrived politely early for mine, but they were running late so I had to hand around in the waiting room, within sight of the toilet, absolutely busting for a wee. It was terrible. I recently had to have the same procedure done and there is nothing more mortifying than feeling like I'm gonna pee in this doctor's office, and then they have the audacity to push down on your lower abdomen before they let you pee while giving the ultrasound. When I was a kid, my mom told me to wait online at the supermarket, and then she went to go get some more things. The person who was at the cashier had just paid and the lady in front of me began unloading her, not heavily packed, shopping cart. She had almost finished loading and was about ready to pay when my mother finally reappeared. Those were simultaneously the longest and the shortest and most terrifying 5 minutes of my life. My dad did this to me when I was about 7 or 8. The cashier ended up scanning everything before my dad came back and I just remember bursting into tears when she told me the total price. A presentation about grass. I don't know why we had to watch it, or why they chose to do it. At the hospice holding my husband's hand as he died, longest 5 minutes of my life. Just pronounced somebody during my overnight shift. Her family held her hand as she died. It's one of the most natural things we do in life. Insert everybody dies line here. But being there and being part of the moment is probably the best thing you could have done for him and for yourself. I still admire your strength to be there. Wife had a seizure during labor. They couldn't find the baby's heartbeat afterwards and rushed to emergency C-section. Everything stabilized but it was scary, seemed to go on forever. 4 years later everyone is happy and healthy. Geez, you reminded me of our experience. Wife was getting epidural placed, but MD put the needle in too far and it became a spinal. When he pushed the meds, I saw my wife's color drain out of her face and her head rolled to the left. She was in a semi-sitting position in the bed. He took a BP and it was 60 systolic. Having been an EMT, I knew her heart was responding to try to make up the BP, and sure enough, next BP just a minute or so later was 160/100. She vomited across the room. I'm certain the finger dents are still in the cushion of the bench I was sitting on. Loading screens in games back when I had a laptop. I have so many Sims 4 loading screen tooltips memorized. Whims are things your Sims want to do, but you don't have to. I'm a police dispatch officer and I had a 6-year-old girl call in on the emergency number and the first thing she said was, "There are men here and they are hurting daddy." The time it took for the first unit to arrive at the scene was the longest minutes in my life. We were lucky we had units nearby. Trying to help somebody you are certain will bleed out before the ambulance gets there. I'm a paramedic. When the patient isn't doing so hot, I can tell you 5 minutes on the way to the hospital lasts a long ass time. I used to be a firefighter. My kid is still in there. He wasn't. He was hiding in the bushes next door. A bit frightened, but completely fine. I think that took a few years off my life. When my son was born I couldn't see him as he stopped breathing felt like forever. He is turning 1 next month. The time between a guy who was acting weird and kept approaching me while I was mowing my lawn, who then hid and was watching me from my neighbor's lawn, to when the cops arrested him. I went inside to call them via my back door. Front was locked, and he followed me and started knocking and scratching against it. I went from hiding on the ground against my back door so he couldn't see me to locked in my upstairs bathroom with a bat by the end of it all. 5 minutes seems like forever when you're terrified. Probably the last 5 minutes of my dad's life. They'd done all they could for him and all that was left was to make him comfortable. We were all with him and sat around as he faded away. He was only 63 too. That was last August, but it feels like it was yesterday. Terrified. I had been dropped off on the remote coast off the Portland Canal in northern BC, Canada. No dock, no roads out. Spent the day there. A woman working alone. When the boat came back for me later in the afternoon, the tide had gone out. It had turned cold and the wind was up. The shore rocks were covered in wet seaweed and the boat was being buffeted in and out away from the rocks. The only way to get off was to wait for the boat to start getting closer, run down the slippery slope and have one of the guys on the boat catch me before I slid and fell into the water between the boat and the shore. The minutes were spent getting the nerve up to do it. I finally found myself doing it, and the guy caught me. The crew high-fived, but it took me a while to stop shaking. I was 60 at the time. Not sure if it was 5 minutes but felt like a little eternity, being on the receiving end of a sexual encounter when I was 5 years old. It's true what they say, with enough pain the brain just shuts off. Hard to explain what that was like. I wasn't so much in and out of consciousness as I was in and out of being aware of what was happening. Was kinda like when you're asleep but wake up only to fall asleep over and over again, so things seem dreamlike and unreal. Then you wake up a bit more and the reality of the situation hits you. But then you just go back to sleep and it repeats. I think it lasted at least 5 minutes, but might have been longer, or maybe shorter. I honestly can't say. Doing CPR on my flatmate. Did it for 8 minutes, until the paramedic arrived. Felt like one hell of a lot longer and my arms and chest muscles ached for days afterwards. He died. Getting my IUD inserted. You feel like she just stabbed your guts from the inside setting it up, but then she goes okay. Next you're going to feel a contraction. That's going to be a little painful. Driving to the hospital with my appendix on the brink of exploding. I was screaming in pain when I got to the hospital and they pumped me full of morphine to shut me the hell up. I will never forget the feeling of the morphine coursing through my veins. Just pure bliss and immediate relief. It was on that day I learned why heroin completely destroys lives. They sent me out of the room so my wife could have the epidural. Then they came and got me. Nope, that wasn't it. It was a couple of minutes later, when they decided that my son's cord was wrapping around his neck in utero, and that the only way to save my wife and child was an emergency C-section. And then the 7 standing people in the room wheeled my wife on the bed out, leaving me alone with beeping unhooked monitors in a room that was 3 times larger, empty than full. Everything went fine. Kid and wife are perfectly okay, but damn. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.